Hello everyone, I'm Jesrell S. Abregundo from San Vicente National High School, San Vicente, Palawan. Here is my demonstration teaching video that utilizes 7 E's of lesson planning. I hope you like it. Everyone, please stand. Kindly check any crumpled paper or trash under your seats, and also please arrange your chairs properly. All right, since all is set, Nico, may you lead a prayer? Amen. Good morning, class. How are you today? It's great to hear that. Even lots of unexpected things happen every day, we need to be happy and grateful that we are safe and sound. You may now take your seats. Let me have your attendance first. Based on your seating arrangements, there are 2 absents, Rico Diaz and Manuel Reyes. Am I right? Do they have an excuse letter? All right. After the class, Maya, please give me the letters. Thank you. Before we proceed to our new lesson, let me try if you still remember our lesson last meeting. Rewrite the following exponential equations in logarithmic form whenever possible. Okay, Micah, answer number 1. Mark, number 2. Sander, number 3. Nixie, number 4. And Pablo, number 5. Great! All of your answers are correct. Who answers number 5? Pablo, why is it that we cannot rewrite the equation in logarithmic form? That is right. We cannot rewrite an exponential equation in logarithmic form if its base is negative. We can only do this if the base is positive. All right. It seems that you really remembered the lesson well. Who among you here have watched the news about the earthquake happened in Occidental Mindoro? Raise your hands, please. Good. For those who were not able to watch it, here is the video of the news report. I want you to listen carefully because afterwards, you're going to answer these questions. What was the video all about? What was the exact location of the earthquake? What was the magnitude of the earthquake? What is the agency that monitors this phenomenon in the country? How do PHIVOLCS measure the strength of the earthquake? You may jot down important notes while watching the video.
Mga kapuso, naramdaman ang magnitude 5.8 na lindol sa maraming lugar sa Luzon. Sa latest update ng PHIVOLCS, naitala ang epicenter niyan 11 kilometers northwest ng Abra de Ilog sa Occidental Mindoro. Intensity 5 ang naramdamang pagyanig sa Lubang Occidental Mindoro, sa Calamba, Laguna at Calatagan at Calacas sa Batangas. Intensity 4 naman sa Malvar at Lemery sa Batangas, sa Calapan Oriental Mindoro, sa Mendez, Cavite, sa Tagaytay City, sa Limay, Bataan at sa Maynila. Intensity 3 naman sa ilang bahagi ng mga lalawigan ng Batangas, Cavite, Laguna at NCR. Intensity 2 naman sa Caloocan at Marikina, sa Olongapo City, Cavite City, Santa Cruz, Laguna, Taysan at Batangas City sa Batangas, Lucena, Dolores at Mulanay sa Quezon at sa Binangon ng Rizal. Habang Intensity 1 sa San Mateo, Rizal at sa San Francisco sa Quezon. Ayon sa PHIVOLCS, maging I am ready sa posibleng aftershocks. Ako po si Katrina Son, buong puso para sa Pilipino.
Okay, Mark, what was the video all about? Correct. The video was all about the earthquake. Alice, what was the exact location of the earthquake? You're right. It happened at 11 kilometers northwest of Abra de Ilog, Occidental Mindoro. How about Nixie? What was the magnitude of the earthquake? Great! Based on the news, it's 5.8 magnitude. Let's have John. What is the agency that monitors this phenomenon in the country? Correct. It's PHIVOLCS, or the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. Finally, let's hear from Lian. How do PHIVOLCS measure the strength of the earthquake? You're right. PHIVOLCS used an instrument called seismograph to record the intensity of an earthquake. In science, intensity is defined as the strength of an earthquake as perceived and felt by people in a certain locality. It is usually represented by Arabic numbers. Excellent job! With that, you will get 5 points as your class recitation. Today, our lesson is all about real-life situations involving logarithmic functions. But our focus is more on earthquake. Can you guess who is in the picture? First clue. He was an American seismologist and physicist. Anyone? Okay, next clue. He was the author of the scale that measures the intensity of an earthquake. Any guess? No one still get the name. For our last clue, his first name starts with letter C and ends with letter S, while his last name starts and ends with letter R. Do you now have the name? Oh yes, Calvin. Charles Richter. You got it right. Do you know some of his contributions in science? Or you might hear any word having his name? Correct, Isa. Richter scale. Charles Richter was the person behind the famous Richter scale. It was in 1935 that he proposed this logarithmic scale to measure the intensity of an earthquake. He defined the magnitude of an earthquake as a function of its amplitude on a standard seismograph. Here is the table of descriptions of various earthquake magnitudes. Based on the table, how do earthquakes with various magnitudes compare with each other? Anyone? Yes, Jessa. That is right. The higher the magnitude, the higher the intensity of an earthquake. Let's clarify these two important terms. What's the difference between magnitude and intensity? Yes, Marco. Correct. Magnitude is a number which is a measure of energy released in an earthquake, while intensity is the strength of shaking during the earthquake. To better understand these concepts, here are the definitions from DOST PHIVOLCS. Magnitude is the energy released by an earthquake at the focus. It is recorded using an instrument called seismograph. On the other hand, intensity is the strength of an earthquake perceived and felt by people in a certain locality. It is generally higher near the epicenter. Here is the formula that we can use to find the magnitude of an earthquake based from the Richter scale. We have R equals log I over I sub 0, where R is the Richter scale measurement or the magnitude of an earthquake. I is the intensity of the earthquake, and I sub 0 is the standard intensity. Let's try to solve the problem using this formula. Let's utilize the news information that you have watched earlier. What is the magnitude of an earthquake 3 times as intense as Occidental Mindoro's earthquake? In solving this problem, we will use the formula R equals log of I over I sub 0. Since the magnitude of Occidental Mindoro's earthquake is 5.8, we write 5.8 equals log of I over I sub 0. We are after with the magnitude of an earthquake 3 times as intense as Occidental Mindoro's earthquake. We can write this as 3I. So, we have R sub F, or the magnitude that we want to find, equals log 3I over I sub 0. Applying the logarithmic rules, we can write this as log 3 plus log I over I sub 0. We know that log I over I sub 0 is 5.8. This gives log 3 plus 5.8. Using your calculator, log 3 is 0.477 plus 5.8 is 6.3 rounded off to the nearest tenth. Hence, the magnitude of an earthquake 3 times as intense as Occidental Mindoro's earthquake is 6.3. Based from the table of descriptions, 6.3 is a strong magnitude. It can affect areas up to 160 kilometers from the epicenter in populated areas. Let's have another problem. Suppose that an earthquake released approximately 10 raised to 12 joules of energy. What is the magnitude on a Richter scale? How much more energy does this earthquake release than the reference earthquake? How intense is the earthquake based on the table of descriptions? In this problem, we use the formula R equals 2/3 log E over 10 raised to 4.40, where R is the magnitude of an earthquake, E is the energy released by the earthquake in joules, and the quantity 10 raised to 4.40 is the energy released by a very small reference earthquake. Let's find the magnitude on a Richter scale first. Based from the given, E equals 10 raised to 12. Substituting this to the formula, we get R equals 2/3 log 10 raised to 12 over 10 raised to 4.40. Simplifying this, we get 2/3 log 10 raised to 7.6. Log 10 raised to 7.6 is 7.6. So, we have 2/3 times 7.6. This gives 5.1. Hence, the magnitude on a Richter scale is 5.1. Next, let's find the amount of energy released by the earthquake compared to reference earthquake. Since the amount of energy released by the earthquake is 10 raised to 12 and the amount of energy released by the reference earthquake is 10 raised to 4.40, to compare them, we divide 10 raised to 12 by 10 raised to 4.40. This gives 10 raised to 7.6, or 39,810,717. This means that the earthquake is 39,810,717 times more energy than that by the reference earthquake. Now, let's answer the last one. How intense is the earthquake based on the table of descriptions? Using the table of description, what do you think is the answer? Yes, Jessa. You're right. 5.1 magnitude is moderately strong, which can affect weak constructions and causes mild damage to stronger constructions. Before you proceed, do you have any questions? Alright, for you to become good at this, let's have a seat word. I will give excerpts of news information about the recent earthquakes happened in some parts of the world. Row 1, you will use this news report. Here's for row 2. And for row 3, This news report is for you. Here are the questions that you need to answer. Given the news information, what is the magnitude of an earthquake 5 times as intense as the said earthquake? How much more energy does this earthquake release than the reference earthquake? 10 raised to 4.40. Use the formula log E equals 5.24 plus 1.44R, where E is the energy released by the earthquake and R is the magnitude. How intense is the earthquake based on the table of descriptions? I will give you 10 minutes to work with your seat work. Your time is up. Please exchange your paper to your seatmates with the same row. Now, the first 3 students in each row from the left, please write your answers on the board accordingly, then afterwards, explain your answers. Thank you. Let's see if your answers are correct. Here are the answers. Wow, you got it all right. Class, make yourself a big round of applause for a job well done. Now, let's try to answer some practical questions. What can you say about the effects of earthquake on human lives? Yes, John. You're right. Earthquakes can cause tsunamis, landslides, and volcanic activities. These would impact on food security and agriculture-based livelihoods through loss and injury of family members and workforce and destruction of properties. Let's have the next question. Do you believe that Palawan, particularly San Vicente, is safe from earthquake? Why? Yes, Michael. Correct. Just like what you said, Palawan does not lie on the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is the reason why we don't experience strong earthquakes and volcanic activities. Next question. What are the safety measures to be done during an earthquake? Yes, Shane. You're right. We can use drop, cover, hold on to remember what to do during an earthquake. Drop down onto your hands and knees when you feel the earthquake. Cover your head and neck and your entire body, if possible, underneath a study table or desk. Hold on to your shelter or to your head and neck until the shaking stops. Finally, what can you do as a student to help your fellow men be aware of the safety measures to be done during an earthquake? Yes, Mark. You're right. Everything must start within ourselves first. You can join earthquake drills conducted in school and in the community. You can share correct information about these safety measures in social media. And you can volunteer teaching your fellow youth and countrymen about these safety measures. I'm very glad to hear your responses. It just proves how informed and prepared you are in this kind of unexpected situation. This time, I want you to complete these 3 sentences. Who would like to try the first one? Okay, Marco. Thank you, Marco. It's nice to hear that you learned how to find the magnitude of an earthquake. You also gave the formula of finding it, which is R equals log of I over I sub 0. Great! Now, let's have the second sentence. Oh yes, Tanya. You're right, Tanya. You can use these mathematics skills to determine the magnitude of an earthquake and other related problem using logarithmic functions. And for the last sentence, Yes, Chris. Nice one, Chris. I'm glad that you have realized the relevance of our topic to you as a student and as an informed citizen, especially in applying the safety measures during earthquake. Last meeting, I grouped you into 3, remember? Alright. With the same groupings, make a creative presentation, role play, news, song, dance, drawing, rap, using these news. You need to include these information. For Group 1, the magnitude of an earthquake 5 times as intense as the said earthquake. For Group 2, how much energy is released by the earthquake compared to the reference earthquake, 10 raised to 4.40. And for Group 3, how intense is the earthquake based on the table of descriptions. Here are the criteria you need to consider in making your presentation. Content. Were the information given accurate, complete, and clearly described? Organization. Was there a smooth flow of transition, organized presentation of ideas, and orderly approach of member to each assigned task? Creativity. Was the output presented showed originality, authenticity, and resourcefulness? Teamwork. Were all the members present, shared their ideas, and performed their part in the presentation? Here is the scoring scale for each criterion. 5 points if all the indicators are met. 4 points, one of the indicators is not met. 3 points, 2 indicators are not met. 2 points, 3 indicators are not met. And 1 point if you fail to present your output. You have 15 minutes to prepare your presentation, and afterwards, you are going to present it in class. You may now start. Wow! You all did excellent presentations. I'm glad that you have learned our lesson today. Here is your assignment. Find one real-life problem involving logarithmic functions, such as sound intensity, pH level, and show your own solution. Before I end the lesson, I want to leave you this. Love is like a magnitude and intensity of an earthquake. Magnitude is like the effort you've been exerting for your crush. The stronger it is, the more chances that it will be felt. Intensity is like how much of your efforts were actually felt by your crush. The nearer and larger the efforts are, the greater will be the shaking of her heart. Thank you so much, everyone. See you again in the next meeting. Goodbye!